Hello YouTube viewers, subscribers, Facebook friends, Facebook family. Welcome to another edition of Joe's Politics 101. Today is August the 8th, 2013. And in my last post I spoke on the issue of our race problem, or discussion that's going on about race in the United States right now. Old wounds being opened by the actions of some of our politicians, mainly the Republican group, that's trying to roll back the times and roll back the rights of people to vote, the rights of women to make a decision on how they want to live their lives and do what they want to do with their bodies. Rolling back all of these things and putting people in a situation to where they want to get back to the 1930s and 40s and 50s, where you work for nothing, basically, not enough to live on, and you have to go out there and do some hustling. But what I'm going to talk about today is the issue of why much of what's going on is the way it is. First off, I want to say this. In the 1970s, I was in the United States Navy, and in the 1970s, they had an admiral who was the chief of naval operations, named Zumwalt. Now, Admiral Zumwalt initiated a program in the military, and if you know anything about the military, or if you're at my age, and probably even after, in some cases, it may even still be going on. I don't really know, because I don't have that much contact with young military people anymore. But the Navy, when I joined the Navy in 1964, was really and truly a racist organization. You had to fight for everything. You had to be real careful about how you carried yourself, because you would end up in some type of trouble and probably get kicked out if you didn't follow some of the rules. But see, me, I was a rule breaker. I had joined the Navy to become a aircraft jet engine mechanic, and they were trying to make me a cook. I knew how to cook. It's no problem knowing how to cook. They wanted to make me a cook, or compartment cleaner, and basically a janitor, anything except for what I wanted to do. Well, I refused to do a lot of those things that they wanted me to do. And as a result of it, I suffered the consequences. I had captain's mast and all of the good things that go along with it. But I stuck to my guns. I stuck to it because what I joined the military to be was what I wanted to be, and that's what I intended to be. And eventually, I became that. It took 6 years before I really got it together, or got them to see that, hey, you're just dealing with a hard-headed person here. You're dealing with a hard-headed American who's determined to get what he wants. And I got it. Well, in the 1970s, Admiral Zumwalt took over as Chief of Naval Operations. And he initiated a program called the Upward Mobility Program. And because of that program, after I had attended the courses that we had to go through, the program was basically designed to teach people in the military that there was no place in the military for racist behavior. that we all were in the same boat, in the same situation. Also in that program was a teaching about sexism. You know, that was a problem in the Navy. Sexism was a problem. And it still may be from some of the reports that you see about how women are being treated in the military nowadays. I liked that program so well that I volunteered and was accepted to facilitate those courses. And in facilitating those courses, you know, having these groups of people of around 20, 23, 24 people at a time, having these groups of people, you had an opportunity to really hear and get into people's feelings about why they felt the way they feel about Afro-Americans or Hispanics or women. And some of the striking things that, you know, even though they were not a surprise, but one of the most striking things about the issue of race is that parents, mothers and fathers, and kinfolks, aunties and uncles, cousins, and, you know, waylaid people. I mean, it's no surprise that it happens, but it's striking that each generation of Caucasian were teaching, and they probably today, from basically what I see in my observation of people with their children, not all, but most, were teaching their children and are teaching their children to believe that because they have light skin, that they're superior to the people who have dark skin. In conjunction with that, they're also teaching them that the people with dark skin are savages, they're violent, they're criminals. You know, this is still going on. I mean, you know, but when I was teaching these courses and we was getting into those conversations and people having an opportunity to talk about it and explain why they felt the way they felt, you know, you would get some striking things come out of it, you know. You know, I had people tell me that, well, if my sister left home and she come back with a black man, I would kill her. You know, she would no longer be a part of my family. I would kill her. You know, those kind of ideas and attitudes towards another person, another human being, is something that's, it's inbred, it's grown, it's gritted in and drove into people. You know, the guy that I work with, his name was Jim. I won't put his last name out there. He was really serious about this race issue, the race problem. He was a white guy. And he developed a couple of seminars that we put on that got us in trouble. One of them was dealing with the Native Americans, the American Indians, and how they were treated. We put that class on, and a officer, a lieutenant commander, was in that class. And he broke down and started crying, and, you know, he was having such a hard time, because once you tie it all together, when you tie the Native American together, you tie the Afro-American together, you tie the Hispanics, you tie the Chinese, you tie all of these people together, you come up with a horrific civil rights and human rights policy. It's horrific the way people were treated by Caucasian people in this country. You know, you think about overseas, the Philippines or Japan or China or somewhere, you know, and how those people were labeled the Pacific Negroes. The Pacific Negro. You know, they didn't just limit the word Negro to Afro-Americans. It was stuck out there across the Pacific Ocean, into the Pacific Ocean. Hawaii, Japan, the Philippines, you know, Guam, all of these places, they were referred to as the Pacific Negro. Well, you know, this issue of race, it needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about. But people, Caucasians have a tendency to want to hide from that. And the reason they want to hide from it is because they know and they understand that they are guilty of some of the things that I've just said. They are guilty of teaching their children that people of dark skin is violent, criminal, they stink, they smell, they grow tails. You know, all of these things that they've come up with, and they're not as good as you. They're not as smart as you. Those kind of things. And people are still teaching their children that. You know, I want you to understand that what I've said in this post, it's fact. It's fact. Do some reading. Do some checking. You know, look at your own self. Look at how you raising your family if you're a Caucasian or an Afro-American. The other thing is that a lot of people don't understand or take into consideration. Many Afro-Americans choose to self-segregate themselves in order to keep the peace, in order to avoid the unnecessary conflicts that come out of when I live in a Caucasian neighborhood. You know, there were times when you couldn't even move into a Caucasian neighborhood, and in many areas today in 2013, if you move into a Caucasian neighborhood, you're subjected to some violence, some unwanted experiences that you don't want. So many Afro-Americans self-segregate themselves. They don't associate with many white, Caucasians. They don't associate because Caucasians have a tendency to step over that line rather than see you as a human being equal to them. They have this tendency to step over the line and think that you're inferior because of your skin color or because of slavery or whatever they've been taught in their lives. I'm going to shut this one down. I'll be back with another one tomorrow. Now, my intent in doing this is to try and educate some people about race and why there is no conversation about race. Those who want to avoid it because they have a fear of discussing it, because they have guilt about discussing it, because they don't want to accept the idea that when they look in the mirror, they're looking at me in themselves. God bless you. Thanks for viewing my post. God bless you. God bless America.